There's a number, a scientifically proven ceiling for your happiness, $75,000 a year. A study by Nobel laureates Daniel Kahneman and Angus Deaton showed that beyond this threshold, an increase in income no longer affects your daily emotional state. Money is important, but only up to the point where basic needs are met. The idea that a new car or house will make you fundamentally happier is a lie we've been made to believe. And this raises the central question of this entire investigation. If wealth doesn't lead to happiness, why are anxiety and depression rates at an all-time high in the most affluent societies in history? What invisible force keeps us running on a wheel that leads nowhere? To find the answer, we must go down the rabbit hole. We need to ask 3 uncomfortable questions that shatter our conventional worldview. First, how did Sigmund Freud's nephew, Edward Bernays, use psychoanalysis not for healing, but to create a mass psychological addiction to consumption? We will uncover this in the second section. Second, why does a society with unlimited access to goods suffer from record levels of anxiety, while some cultures with minimal possessions report greater life satisfaction? We will begin to explore this in the fourth section. And the third, most profound question, how did we come to strive to have more and more, only to lose ourselves in the process, becoming commodities on the market? This idea from Erich Fromm will be the key to our understanding in the third section and will lead us to the being mode in the sixth. This video is your contract with freedom. It has 3 parts. The first is understanding. By the end of our investigation, you will see the hidden architecture of consumer society. You will understand how it influences your emotions and decisions every day. The second is tools. You will receive a specific set of tools based on the ideas of Erich Fromm, the prophetic psychoanalyst who published his warning back in 1976. These are practical steps to help shift your focus from having to being. The third part is transformation. This will change how you view every purchase, every like, and how you define your own worth. The goal is not asceticism, but regaining control over your life. Your journey through this investigation will pass through 3 key points. In just 4 minutes, we will expose the marketing formula created a century ago that made you confuse your identity with your purchases. You will see how this was done through a specific historical example. In about 10 minutes, we will dive into Fromm's deepest idea, the hidden war inside your brain between the love of the living and the unconscious pull toward the dead, the mechanical. This will explain why gadgets provide only temporary satisfaction. And in 18 minutes, we will reach the climax. You will receive a practical toolkit for switching to the being mode. This is the most valuable part of our journey. So, it begins. The first step is to understand how the trap was built. Why do you feel an almost physical jolt of pleasure when you click the buy button, even if you don't need the item? Your brain reacts as if you've found a vital resource. This is dopamine, the neurotransmitter of novelty. Evolution programmed us to rejoice in the new for survival, but this reaction was hacked, cynically and deliberately, in the early 20th century. Freud's nephew, Edward Bernays, realized that you could connect a product not to its function, but directly to your unconscious desires for status, freedom, sexual appeal. Your dopamine response is a river flowing in its natural course. Bernays didn't create a new river. He dug a channel and directed all its power to the turbine of consumption. Therefore, the joy of a purchase is not your true desire, but an echo of his campaigns. This technology allowed things to be embedded into the very core of your identity. How did cigarettes, an addictive product, become a symbol of female emancipation in the 1920s? Fifth Avenue in New York, the Easter Parade of 1929. On Bernays' signal, a group of socialites takes out cigarettes and defiantly lights them in front of reporters. A scandal. At first glance, it seems like just clever advertising. However, this was the first operation in history to rewrite the cultural code. Bernays turned a taboo into an act of public defiance. Smoking became a symbol of equality with men. The product was forever separated from its function and linked to an idea. This technique, linking an inanimate object to your identity, sells you everything today. The car as freedom, the smartphone as connection. And in this system of substitution, as Fromm warned, we ourselves become a commodity. Why do your state-of-the-art gadgets break or become obsolete so quickly? Shouldn't technology make things more durable? This is called planned obsolescence, a business model that forces you to buy again and again. It may seem like just the laws of the market, but it's not a law of the market, it's a conspiracy. In 1924, leading light bulb manufacturers formed the Phoebus cartel. They secretly agreed to reduce the lifespan of their products from 2,500 hours to 1,000. This practice is not the exception, but the rule that keeps you on the wheel. Forced upgrades are a strategy. But what if in this system, it's not just technology that becomes obsolete, but people themselves? What do the stock market and your social media profile have in common? At first glance, nothing. Yet in both, your value is determined by external demand. A stock rises if people want to buy it. Your post is popular if people like it. This seems like a simple analogy, but it's the same mechanism. Erich Fromm called this the marketing character, a state where you begin to perceive yourself, your skills, and your personality as a commodity to be sold advantageously. In the job market, in relationships, in life. Social media is the apotheosis of this idea. We have become brand managers for our own self. In this system, your personality is like a Swiss Army knife. Its value lies not in its essence, but in the number of tools demanded by the market. And this creates constant anxiety, which is explained by Fromm's next, even deeper idea. Why do you worry so desperately about what others think, even strangers on the internet? The need for social approval is a basic survival mechanism, but the marketing character distorts it, turning it into a business metric. Your self-esteem becomes analogous to a stock price, dependent on likes and comments. A mere 10% drop in engagement on your post can trigger a real spike in cortisol, the stress hormone. In this system, your intrinsic worth is irrelevant. Only your market value matters, and this even changes the way you learn. Why do online courses increasingly teach not fundamental skills, but how to package and sell yourself? This seems like a logical response to the demands of a competitive world. But Fromm shows us that the goal of education has changed. It is no longer about becoming deeper or more skilled. The goal is to acquire a package of in-demand qualities to increase your price. Traditional education was like growing a tree, a long process with deep roots. Today's personal brand is like creating a bouquet of cut flowers, beautiful but not for long. Knowledge becomes not a part of you, but a commodity on display in your resume. And nowhere is this alienation more apparent than in job interviews. Why does a job interview feel like an unnatural and humiliating performance? You walk out feeling empty, even if it went well. A person sits under the cold light of office lamps, their palms slightly damp. In 25 minutes, they must sell the best version of themselves. This is the perfect model of the marketing character in action. You are both the seller and the commodity. Your personality must adapt to the buyer's demands. You must be what they want to buy. Ultimately, you lose touch with who you really are, becoming a chameleon. And this constant self-selling creates a vast internal void. Could shopping be a form of depression? The idea of retail therapy, where you lift your spirits with purchases, seems harmless. But it's not therapy, it's a symptom. When a person feels empty and valued as a commodity, they try to mechanically fill that void with things. They try to have to compensate for their inability to be. But this is like quenching thirst with salt water. Each purchase provides only temporary relief while strengthening the addiction. This therapy has led to American credit card debt exceeding $1 trillion for the first time. And this existential anxiety fuels the entire system. If we live in the richest society in history, why are millions of people drowning in debt? This is often attributed to low financial literacy or aggressive bank marketing. But the reality is much larger. Total household debt in the US has surpassed $17 trillion. That's more than the entire annual GDP of China. This debt is not just numbers in a report. It is a material monument to our existential emptiness. We are trying to buy the meaning of life on credit. But why is this mechanism doomed to fail on a fundamental psychological level? Why does the euphoria from a new phone or car fade so quickly? Where does the joy that sparked the purchase go? Psychologists call this hedonic adaptation. Your brain gets used to a new level of pleasure and begins to perceive it as the norm, demanding an ever-increasing dose. but Fromm saw deeper. The having mode is based on passive possession. It requires no effort, growth, or engagement from you. And without active participation, there can be no deep and lasting satisfaction. The happiness from possession is like a drug. The dose constantly increases while the effect diminishes. This is the hungry ghost, a perpetually unsatisfied desire that drains you. Fromm believed that behind this race lies a fundamental battle within each of us. What is it like to spend years chasing the American dream only to realize one day that it was a trap? What does a person at the top feel when they recognize their inner emptiness? They have everything society calls success: a prestigious house, an expensive car, the latest smartphone. Their family looks perfect on social media, but inside they feel lost and anxious. Their anxiety is not a personal failure, but a logical outcome of the system. The system promises happiness through possession, but by its very nature cannot deliver it. This is not their crisis. It is the existential dead end into which our entire society has been driven. At 45, sitting in an $80,000 car in a traffic jam, they realized for the first time that they felt not like a winner, but a prisoner of their own achievements. Fromm believed that something greater lies behind this race, a fundamental battle between two forces in the human soul. What is the true opposite of the love of life? Most would say hatred, or the fear of death. These answers seem logical, but Fromm provides a radical answer: necrophilia. Not in the literal sense. It is a psychological attraction to all that is non-living, mechanical, and artificial, to everything that can be fully controlled and predicted. Fromm argued that consumer society systematically cultivates this tendency in us. Things are the perfect dead objects for possession. They do not grow, they do not change. They are completely under our control. This is the key to our deep-seated anxiety and the two fundamental forces fighting for your soul. The first force is biophilia, an innate attraction to all that is living, growing, and spontaneous. It is the love of the process, not the result. A gardener who enjoys the unpredictable growth of a plant is a biophile. The second, its dark reflection, is necrophilia, an attraction to the dead, the mechanical, the fully controlled. A mechanic who disassembles and reassembles a dead mechanism is a necrophile. And here's the main conclusion: consumer society is a paradise for necrophilia. It systematically replaces living, complex experiences with the safe possession of dead things. And the most vivid example of this substitution is your social media. Why do platforms created for live interaction lead to record levels of loneliness? The answer seems simple. Online displaces offline. But Fromm sees deeper. Live communication is biophilia. It involves risk, spontaneity, and accepting others' imperfections. Communication on social media is necrophilia. You're not managing a living person, but their dead, idealized avatar. You filter information, control your image, and can break contact at any moment. The average person spends 2.5 hours a day managing these avatars. We unconsciously prefer the order and control of a digital ghost to the chaos and risk of real intimacy. When you feel anxious, why are you more likely to open a meditation app than to call a friend? It seems efficient. The app is available, anonymous, and offers a clear algorithm. But this is again a choice in favor of necrophilia. An app is a predictable, mechanical, dead solution. A conversation with a friend is biophilia. It is unpredictable, requires vulnerability and empathy. It takes 3 minutes to launch an app. It can take hours to summon the courage for a call. By choosing the predictable over the living, we atrophy our ability to cope with the complexity of the real world. We are losing the skill of living. What if there is another way to live? One that we haven't invented but simply forgotten. Fromm contrasts two modes. The having mode is passive possession, relying on what we have. The being mode is active participation in life, relying on who we are. And the being mode is the practical awakening of biophilia. It focuses not on accumulating dead objects, but on experiencing life, on growth, creativity, and genuine connection. This is not a philosophical abstraction. It is a concrete, practical way of perceiving reality. We are moving from diagnosis to treatment. And the next step is to learn how to consciously enter this state. How can two people read the same book and have completely different experiences? What is the fundamental difference between having knowledge and truly being knowledgeable? In the having mode, knowledge is a possession, a collection of facts you gather for an exam or an argument. It is a dead object. But reality hits hard when we apply this same principle to human relationships. To have a partner implies control and jealousy. To be in love is a process of mutual growth. The being mode is always a verb. The having mode is a noun. Being is a dance. Having is a photograph of the dance. And this distinction explains why we can listen to music but never truly hear it. How can you own thousands of songs in a playlist, yet remain deaf to music? Unlimited access has turned it into a background, a commodity, a part of a personal brand. This is listening in the having mode. But to be in the music is an act of full presence. It is not passive listening, but active empathy, following the part of each instrument, feeling the emotional shifts, allowing the sounds to evoke images. In that moment, there is no you and music. There is a single process of experiencing. This principle applies everywhere. You can have a vacation by collecting photos for Instagram, or you can be on a journey by getting lost in unfamiliar streets. The first is proof for others. The second is a transformation for yourself. And science now explains why the second path brings far more happiness. Why does the memory of a week-long vacation bring more joy years later than owning an expensive phone you use every day? This contradicts logic. We believe that material things, being durable, should provide stable satisfaction. But research proves the opposite. The level of happiness from buying a thing drops quickly due to hedonic adaptation. Meanwhile, satisfaction from an experience can even grow over time. Fromm explains it this way: an experience cannot be had, it can only be lived, and it becomes woven into the fabric of your personality. A thing always remains an external object, separate from you. Every purchase of an experience is an investment in your being. Every purchase of a thing is an investment in your having. Understanding this difference is the first step. But it is not enough. Is it enough to simply understand the difference between being and having to change your life? An intellectual insight provides a dopamine hit, and we feel as if the problem is solved. We have new knowledge, confusing it with a skill. This is a trap. But here is what superficial readings of Fromm hide. He was not a philosopher, but a clinician. His work is not a diagnosis, but a prescription. He offered specific exercises to train the muscle of being, just as an athlete trains their body. Understanding is only the map. To get out of the forest, you have to start walking. In the next culminating section of our investigation, we will move from the map to the compass. We will assemble a set of Fromm's most powerful tools for you. This is the transition from why to how. How can one person stand against a multi-billion-dollar marketing industry that screams buy 24 hours a day? It's a battle that seems impossible to win. Fromm's first tool is active awareness. Before every purchase, you just stop for 10 seconds and ask yourself, why? This sounds like a trivial savings tip, but this exercise isn't about money, it's about power. The total debt of American households has surpassed $17 trillion. This amount is enough to buy Apple 5 times over. This tool is a scalpel, dissecting the link between this debt and your personal emotions, boredom, loneliness, anxiety. You begin to see that advertising sells you not a product, but a false promise of relief. The first step to freedom is seeing the bars of your cage. You cease to be a puppet and become an observer, watching the attempt to pull your strings. This protects you from the future. But the key to freeing yourself from the past lies in the next exercise. If you lost everything you own, what would be left of you? The question is frightening because, in the having mode, the answer is nothing. The second tool is disidentification. Take any object you value and ask, who would I be without it? Would my worth as a person diminish? This isn't minimalism in the style of Marie Kondo. It's a psychological operation to separate your identity from your property. We have been taught that I am what I have. This exercise is a direct rebellion against that equation. It brings order not to your closet, but to your self-esteem. Your value is not stored on the shelves of your home. Realizing this provides incredible freedom from the fear of loss and envy. Your essence is indestructible and independent of external attributes. And the same logic applies to the most complex area, human relationships. Why do we feel lonely even when constantly surrounded by people? In an era of hyper-connectivity, we have forgotten how to truly be together. The third tool is unstructured time. Plan a meeting with a loved one without a specific goal, without gadgets. The purpose is simply to be together. This may seem inefficient and awkward, but it's not just doing nothing. It is active resistance to necrophilia, the pull toward the controlled and mechanical. Our scheduled meetings are a form of it. Biophilia, the love of the living, requires spontaneity. True intimacy is born in these moments of aimlessness. In such moments, you stop seeing a person as a function, friend, or colleague, and begin to see a living, separate individual. In 1 minute, you will learn Fromm's final and most powerful tool for finding meaning in life. If not things and not status, what is the main source of meaning in the being mode? Where should you direct the energy that was spent on the consumer race? The fourth tool is meaningful activity. Find an activity that is satisfying in itself, not just for its result. It could be creativity, volunteering, or learning something new. But this isn't just a hobby for stress relief. It is a fundamental act of creating meaning. In the having mode, work is time you sell. In the being mode, meaningful activity is your self-expression. This is the direct answer to why we are unhappy in abundance. Because meaning cannot be bought, it can only be created. The existential void is filled not by consumption but by creation. Every hour spent on meaningful activity is a brick you lay in the foundation of your being. We have the tools. Now it's time to put the whole picture together and make the final choice. Now the whole picture is clear. We have exposed the trap of having, showing how Edward Bernays in 1920s New York first tied happiness to purchases. But this trap only works because we ourselves have accepted its rules. We have internalized the marketing character, beginning to treat ourselves as a commodity to be sold advantageously. This system, where both things and people are interchangeable assets, inevitably generates deep existential anxiety. We feel lonely and easily replaceable, and here the circle closes. The system that created the pain offers a counterfeit cure for it. Another purchase, another like, another upgrade. It is a brilliantly designed prison for the mind. But this is not just a psychological problem. It is a battlefield for the very essence of humanity. And this battle is being fought on a deeper level than psychology. Fromm revealed it as a clash between two fundamental forces. The first is necrophilia, the attraction to the dead. The having mode is its direct expression. It is safe, predictable. Everything can be counted and controlled like a mechanism. It is the love of dead order. It is opposed by biophilia, the love of the living. The being mode is its territory. It is risky, spontaneous, creative, and unpredictable, like life itself. Biophilia is the path of the gardener, working with living soil. Necrophilia is the path of the engineer, building from dead parts. The entire consumer society, with its planned obsolescence and marketing character, pushes us on into the engineer's path. Because a living and unpredictable person is harder to control. At the very beginning, we asked why we are unhappy. Now the answer is clear. We are being forced to go against our living nature. But this path back to life exists. Awakening the being mode is not just a beautiful idea, but our strategic goal. It is a conscious choice for biophilia in response to the system's challenge. And this strategy is impossible without tactics. The 4 tools we received, active awareness, disidentification, unstructured time, and meaningful activity, are your practical weapons. It is these daily actions that weaken the grip of the having mode. Fromm's book, To Have or To Be, translated into more than 40 languages, has given millions of people not just a diagnosis, but an arsenal for liberation. We have received a comprehensive answer to all our initial questions. After this entire journey, which of these 4 tools seems most effective for you personally? This entire investigation leads us to a final choice. We have seen how the system manipulates us and have received tools for inner change. But where's the main lever for change? There are two answers here, and your choice will determine your personal life strategy. Write just one word in the comments. The first word is manipulation. If you believe the main problem is external forces, marketing, corporations, ideology, and that we must fight them first and foremost. The second word is apathy. If you believe the main problem is our internal passivity, our fear, and unwillingness to choose the more difficult but meaningful path of being. Both answers are correct, but their balance determines where you will focus your energy, on changing the world or on changing yourself. Your choice will show where you believe the real work begins.